Devastated, confused, heartbroken. So many times in life we get thrown for a curve and don't know how to react.
I can tell you the first time I had sex, how was my marriage going to survive? It's over. I remember standing in front of the judge with my 3-week-old baby, looking at my ex. I saw the look on his face, and it was complete rage.
Welcome to When Life Throws You a Curve and How to Make the Adjustment with your host, Katie Hamilton.
Hey everyone, welcome to When Life Throws You a Curve and How to Make the Adjustment. I'm Katie Hamilton. I'm so glad that you've joined me today. As you can see, we are switching things up, recording from home. We have made a few attempts this week to get this done and actually thought we had great success on the last try, but there were still adjustments to be made. So here we are again, but I think what is this, the third time, Cash, this week? It's at least the third time.
It's trial number 3. Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, it sure does. And regardless of what number it is, this one is the charm. It's happening. It is happening. So anyway, just, hopefully, well, Lord Jesus, help us not have any kinks. But I decided to deviate from the regularly scheduled programming in light of the coronavirus situation. And still, of course, my prayers are going out to everybody and all of the doctors also, and the government officials, families, the whole nine. I mean, it's really been something. I can tell you, I feel like my kids this will be a huge memory in their lives as they grow. This will be like they're up. I went to school up, walk 2 miles up the, hill one way, or whatever those old people say. But I am praying that it is over soon. But in the meantime, we are making the adjustment across the board. And, the original reason that I wanted to even make this podcast, or a podcast that had to do with making the adjustment, was to help people find solutions and really help them get through seasons in life, challenges in life that they were not expecting, situations and circumstances that just seem to come out of nowhere and blindside them. I know I myself have gone through so many, and that's why I wanted, I don't want that to go to waste. They've definitely been hard, but they've taught me a lot of things. And I know not everyone can always relate to some of my stories, even though I've really only scratched the tip of the iceberg with sharing my personal history and my experience with curveball situations and making the adjustment. But I know that everybody can relate with me on this situation, because we are all going through it right now together. And I thought the podcast for you all would be better served and hopefully would do more good this week if I just shared some practical, like, right now tips, because I think that's what we need. I think that's what people need, some helpful things. People need some hope. And I know personally, when there's so much uncertainty going on and so much challenge really happening, I personally don't want to talk about more hard stuff, and that last week I had just started to scratch the tip of the iceberg with, events that were really just going to get harder and harder and heavier. And I don't really think that serves any of us nearly as well right now as just some very practical, what can I do tips. And, I am going to apply things to this current situation, but also touch on several different types of circumstances that come out of nowhere. And these 5 basic, I guess they're tips, points, practices, have proven in my life to be extremely valuable. And, they're just things that I've learned over the years. Like, this is what I need to do. This is going to give me the best chance to be able to move forward in a very productive manner. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just tell y'all the types of situations, and I'll, expound on them some. And then I'm actually going to share a fun story of when I had to make the adjustment on like a good, from a good memory, from a good perspective, because I know there are a lot of families out there that are homeschooling. And while I have done it before, I didn't think we would be doing it again. So that's another, it's definitely another curveball when you enroll your kids in school. That's, I thought, okay, well, spring break's fun, great, oh, well, spring break is still very much happening, and I'm back to being the teacher. But I want to tell you all about the first time my first experience homeschooling. And never, ever would have thought that that's something I would have done. I wouldn't have done it by choice in my mind growing up, but definitely, if you don't think what's happening now is preparing you for something in your future, I can assure you that it is. And so, I want to always take all the good stuff from the challenges, because I know if I do, I'm going to use it later in life. So I'll share that fun story. And then I'm going to talk to Cash, because I have some burning questions for him that I've been dying to ask. And I hate that I have to wait to the end. So I don't know.
I'm looking forward to it.
Keep this concise. Like that was the longest opening ever. Sorry.
I'm sure they don't mind.
Well, they're not here to argue with me. So, and you aren't either. You're, all the way out there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm across town.
Well, I'm glad that you've made help me make these arrangements.
Made the adjustments.
Yeah, I'm not that tech savvy. You should see me up in here though. I look very official. I have easels. I probably won't even look at these notes, but I hired a new assistant, and she put notes up for me from, I had just told her what I was going to talk about. I have a light. I have a very special microphone. Anyway, it's very official, and there's no one here to see it, but I'm going to take some pictures. I'm proud of the little setup that we've come up with. So anyway, all right, well, I know the clock's ticking, so I better jump right in. Okay, so there's three main situations that I feel like require that, our reactions, decisions are very impactful for us in varying degrees. The first one, and that's aside from kind of the stuff that we're experiencing now, which I'll get to that a little bit towards the end. The first one is your, this is an emergency type situation, like your kid fell off the swing set and she probably has a broken arm. So that response and my initial response, in those situations are going to affect me more and affect her in the, immediate hours, days, weeks, and months, typically, more so than, 15 years down the road. Not to say that our immediate response in those situations don't matter down the road, because of course, if I fail to do what I'm supposed to do, it absolutely could affect her. But typically speaking, these situations need a right now response, because it's an emergency and you got to make a game time decision. So that's, let's situation number one, emergency. Situation number two is very, very different. I would say kind of like the polar opposite of that. Still heavy. This would be something like, you find out your husband's having an affair. In that situation, I do not want to make any type of knee-jerk reaction or any major decisions in the minutes or even days of, really even weeks of finding out something like that. Because those situations, the decisions that I make, are going to affect me in the months and years down the road, for sure. The decisions I make, even in how I respond initially, that's going to have an effect also. But what I do with that information and how I respond to that type of curveball that's going to impact my future in a huge way, his future, my kids' future. I mean, that would be, what you really need to not have a knee-jerk reaction on that one, which is very different than the situation I just, the emergency situation I just kind of went over. And then the third situation is kind of a morphine, I feel like, of the two, where your immediate response is necessary and it needs to be wise, and the aftermath of that situation is going to impact you months down the road, maybe years down the road. I think of like an example of this type of situation. I should probably name these, but I haven't. I would say that would be something like if you came home and your house was on fire. Okay, well, immediately, I have to just, I gotta call the police. I gotta make sure, or the fire department. I've got to make sure I've got my kids. There's like immediate response necessary. And then of course, the aftermath, the decisions I make in the coming, weeks and months are going to have, that situation is going to affect me for a long time. So those are kind of the three, I feel like, main categories. This coronavirus, or natural disaster type of situation, I'm going to kind of say this for last. But all of these, the 5 practical steps that I implement on these, they apply to all of them. And by no means is this a like full comprehensive every scenario. Of course, I'm not listing every scenario. I'm just grouping the main ones that I've come across that I feel like, give you a pretty broad picture of types of situations that at some point, many of us are going to encounter something along one of those lines. God forbid it's not, hopefully never a betrayal or of infidelity. Hopefully it's no, like God forbid, someone encounters a fire or gets a, very bad health diagnosis, but it is life and things do happen. And our reactions and what we do in those moments after and in the days and weeks after, it really does matter. So it is good to have a game plan. And for me, I'm very practical, and I like to have my action steps. Now, these that I have learned that I'm going to share have really become second nature to me because I've had so many opportunities to put them into practice, far more than I ever wish that I did. But, that is what it is. So I'm going to take the good and I'm going to share what I've learned. And I have a child walking in the house. Thanks, honey. That's so sweet. She brought me a water. Love you. Anyway, so regardless of whether we're dealing with an emergency, my kid broke her arm, I got to go to the ER, or I'm getting news that my husband's had an affair, or I come home and, my house is burning down. Regardless of what it is, the first thing, because I'm going to have a response. That's going to evoke a lot of emotion, from me right out of the gate. The very first thing I always do is I have to take a breath. I have to take, whether it's 2 seconds, or if I have the time, like in the affair scenario, like 2 hours. I have to be able to take a breath, because if my brain's not getting oxygen, I'm not going to be able to implement measures to help fix the situation that, I'm currently experiencing. So breathe. It sounds simple, but when you're in a spiral, I've seen this even with my kids. I've seen it with myself. If I'm spiraling out of control, and my mind is starting to race and I'm, living in that, just panic mode, you forget to breathe. So that's it sounds simple, but it is very, very beneficial to just take a breath. Simultaneously or just shortly thereafter, if I'm in an emergency situation, or, situations 1 or 3, regardless of how dire it is, I immediately am going to say a very quick prayer. It's not going to be long because I got to be, getting my kid in the car and taking her down to the ER or calling the fire department, making sure, my neighbor's house is, the yard's not catching on fire. I mean, I have to react. So I'm going to ask God quickly, Lord, please help me. Just give me wisdom. Like, show me what to do fast, very quickly. In a situation number 2, as you know, it would be if you're getting massive life-changing news, I'm going to spend a lot of time in prayer. But immediately after, taking some deep breaths, I'm going to pray. And then once the dust settles on any of the situations that I'm in, okay, if it's, let's say it's the broken arm and I've gotten my daughter to the ER, okay, we've made it to the emergency room. I always, regardless of what it is, I always take an inventory of what I'm grateful for, because I have noticed and found over the years, it is very hard to stay in a mindset of negativity or a mindset of victim mentality when you're having taken an inventory of what you're grateful for. Because I can assure you, number one, it could always be worse. It could always be worse. So if you have time, if you're able to just, oh, thank you, Lord, that it is just a broken arm. I mean, there's families out there, probably some listening to this podcast that, have children that are dealing with significant health issues. I mean, our world right now is having a health crisis. I know I broke my wrist a year ago and I'm still rehabbing it. And it was my right wrist. But I just kept thinking, oh my goodness, Lord, thank you so much that I did not break both arms. Because the things that I can do just with one hand, I can still function. If I was not able to use both of my arms, the things that I would not be able to accomplish by myself would be massive. And I didn't even want to think about that. I mean, I could have thought, oh, well, why couldn't I have broken my left arm? No, I was just so thankful that I didn't break both. Yes, of course it sucks, break your arm, but like in light of what things could look like, I counted myself very, very fortunate. So just having a state of mind of being grateful, even in the infidelity situation, I absolutely thanked God for every single thing in my life that he had blessed me with, my children, my health. I do know what it's like to be in a health crisis where your health is very much in jeopardy. And, having gone through that, I'm so thankful every day for my health. But I can tell you, there have been times when my life was so full of uncertainty and it was so just out of the realm of anything I could have ever thought could have ever happened to me, in the worst possible way. In those moments, I still knew that I had a reason to be grateful and a reason to dance and a reason to worship, because Christ died for me. For me, that was like, that's it. When you strip it all away, I knew if I had Jesus, I had everything I was going to need. And when you're in a state of mind of being grateful, it's very, very hard to be in that victim mindset or a mindset of negativity. Things might be uncertain. They may stay uncertain for an extended amount of time, but the peace of God rules and reigns in our lives. So after I've taken an inventory of what I'm grateful for, I kind of, okay, so now I'm going to go back to the Lord in prayer. And now I'm really going to bathe the situation in prayer, depending on what it is. If it's just that I need to find an orthopedic doctor for my daughter. Okay, God, show me where to take her, practical things. But if it's, am I going to get a divorce? I'm not going to be making that decision lightly. I'm going to pray and pray and pray, and I'm not going to make a move. I'm not going to take a step that's major. I'm not going to make any major decisions until I know that I've heard from God. And once I do hear from God, like once I do have my game plan from him and kind of my marching orders of what does he want me to do with this, all of whatever it is I'm dealing with, then the last thing is I'm going to trust that he is going to use this for my good. I'm going to obey him, and I'm going to trust his character, and I'm going to trust that he's going to use this for my good and for his glory. And I mean, because that's what the Bible says. It says he works all things for our good, for those who love him, for those that are called according to his purpose. That's me. I love God, and I'm his daughter, and I know he has my best interest in mind. And I know when I'm in pain and I'm, sad, he is sad right there with me. I mean, he is right there with me. He never enjoys seeing his children hurt ever, but we live in a fallen world. We live in a broken world, and shit happens. But it doesn't mean that God enjoys that. He is not, that's just not his nature, and that's not his character. So I can tell you the valleys of life are not fun. They're not fun. But in order for us to get to another mountaintop experience, because life is full of peaks and valleys, we do have to go through the valley, and then we have to climb the mountain. And I know for me, if I can go through that valley and come out on the other side looking more like a reflection of Jesus, then for me, that is time well spent. It may have been a painful journey, but it's not a wasted journey. And I'm definitely allowing the refining that's being done in the valley and in the trial that we're, whatever trial I'm experiencing, to develop whatever it is that God is needing to develop in me so that I can go on to the next season of my life. And it definitely makes the mountaintop experiences so much sweeter. Like, you enjoy that view exponentially more because you know what it took to get there. But, back to just going to restate this is what I do when I'm encountering a season or a trial or a situation that just hits me out of nowhere. And I have to, my reaction, breathe, say a quick prayer. When the dust settles and I can okay, that initial shock is over. I still have no clue what's about to happen, but while I'm in this moment, I'm going to think about every single thing that I'm thankful for. And I'm not just going to think it, I'm actually going to say it out loud, because that lets the enemy know, don't be fooled, buddy. I know that you are the accuser. You're a liar. You come to kill, steal, and destroy. That is your MO. So I'm just going to make sure, not only am I reminding myself of what I'm grateful for, I'm going to remind you that I know what I'm grateful for, and I'm going to remind you of what I'm grateful for, because you're not going to have victory in my life. Like the word says that no weapon formed against me will prosper. Well, I can assure you there have been, maybe little victories that the enemy has gotten, but if I can get to a place of gratitude quickly, that weapon that he is so desperately, formed, many weapons, they're not going to prosper in my life, because I'm going to be going to God in prayer, thanking him for everything that he is, that he's done for me, that I have, that just for his goodness. And then I am going to pray my little heart out until I get a strategy of exactly how to proceed. What do I do? The situations that I've been that have hit me the hardest and been the most oh my gosh, I had no idea what to do. I had no clue what to do with this. There have been so many of these type situations. So I waited until I heard from God, fully expecting that I would. And then whatever he said I trusted him that, okay, this is what you want me to do, Lord. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to trust that you're going to use this for my good and for your glory. Now, kind of switching gears just a little bit, because, you know, this whole Corona thing has just, I know it's hit all of us out of nowhere. I mean, maybe, you know, I've heard from a few people that they had, you know, some dreams about it, but I don't think anybody really knew practically like what would this look like. You know, I don't think anybody thought if they told us a month ago we were going to be teaching our kids and, you know, we would be doing our podcast from, you know, our houses, and the counties would be on lockdown, and just, I mean, it just would seem so outlandish just a few weeks ago. I can tell you there is a situation that I went through, it's been about 5 years. It was right when my divorce was happening. And I'm not going to go into all of that because that's just a whole nother, that's probably the most wild thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. And if it didn't actually happen to me, I probably wouldn't believe it because it was so insane. One day I will share. But that was a situation where there was so much uncertainty, and I didn't have answers. I didn't have reasons. I didn't have any single thing except, you know, the things that I've just listed, you know, Jesus, prayer, you know, being grateful for my daughters. I had no clue what was happening around me and why it was happening. I mean, it wasn't just like, hey, you know, we're going to get a divorce. It was so very involved. And I mean, I was frustrated and very confused. And I'm like, okay, God, like, I have no clue, like, what is it that you want me to do? Well, in that situation, he actually told me to fast and praise. Not just pray, but praise. Well, if you had looked at my situation, praising would have not been the first thing that would have come to your mind as a reaction. Like it was so insane that, you know, had I not known God to the level that I did, I would have been like, yeah, I don't really feel like praising. I feel like, you know, my heart has been shattered, but I'm also so confused that I couldn't put any of those pieces together. But God said to fast and praise. So that's what I did for 3 days. I fasted and I just worshiped. And, you know, I prayed also, but mostly it was not looking at my current situation. It was really looking up, you know, at Jesus and worshiping him for who he is. And it definitely, yeah, it took my mind off of my current situation, even though I knew my heart was still hurting. But it was a time where I was obedient and worshiped in the midst of total and utter confusion and uncertainty. And at the end of those 3 days, it was like God just lifted me out of this maze of insanity. It was absolute insanity, and showed me every single thing that was going on. Every single thing. I would have never known it. And because unless you're actually crazy, or God gives you a supernatural gift to discern what's happening in a true crazy, I mean, I'm saying that word, but it's legit. It was absolutely insane. Gifting to discern that and understand it, you know, you're not gonna be able to figure that out. So he lifted me up and gave me like a bird's eye view, uncovered every single thing that was happening. And then it made so much sense, you know, and then he could give me the game plan to implement, but he needed my obedience. And I'm so very thankful that you know, fasting is not real fun, but sometimes it's necessary. There were been many times, especially when Josh was knee deep in his addiction, where I fasted. It reminded me to pray. It kind of refocused my focus, and it got me ready to receive instruction from the Lord. So, you know, in this with this whole thing that's going on right now, there is so much uncertainty. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that are scared. They're concerned about their jobs. They're concerned about their future. I mean, I can tell you for sure, like this, but the financial situations definitely hit me very, very much. I mean, it's affected my finances in a very serious way. But at the end of the day, God is my provider. I trust him above, everything. He's the only one that knows the end from the beginning. So if I'm going to have success during this time, I'm going to have some sanity. If my kids are not going to want to, run away from home from their mother because I'm, losing my shit, but I'm not, thankfully. This is one of those times where I have to just choose to trust. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to pray. I'm going to know that, okay, God, I don't know like the future here. I don't know what exactly is going on, but what I do know is that you're good. You love me. You love my daughters. You are my supplier, and you don't ever run out, and I can trust your heart, and you have my best interest in mind. And I can guarantee you he's going to use this for my good and for his glory if I choose to give him the situation. So I really would encourage all of you to just take some time, like take this time out, y'all. My internet is unstable.
That's not what you ever want to hear. There was like a slight delay, but
Yep.
in these times, I mean, there are so many people using video conferencing.
You're like, are you sure that's all that's unstable? You sure that was a message you got?
No, yeah, I think it looks like it's back, and we're good.
We're back, bitches. All right. So, anyway, I would just say, take this time to evaluate, everything in your life. Take an inventory of gratitude. Spend some time really praying, like, God, what do you want to show me during this season? Because he doesn't want this to be wasted time. He wants us to get single thing good that he has for us. So there is good stuff that is mixed in with this very challenging scenario that we're dealing with. So, that's what I'm definitely counting on him doing. If you are wondering or thinking, okay, well, that's really helpful, Katie, because like, I don't really know how to hear from God. I don't know that I'm able to hear from God, and I certainly never have heard from God. A few things on that you can kind of gauge, like, is this God or is this me? Number one, most of the time, God's voice, because it's not really audible, typically it's like in your spirit, it's going to sound kind of like your voice, because he speaks to us in a language that we get, like we're going to be able to pick up what he's putting out. But if we want to verify that it's him, because as we're getting to know him, the longer you are in a relationship with him, the easier it is to recognize his voice 1,000,000%. If I'm married, when I was married, if my husband called me, he didn't have to say, "Oh, hi, Katie, it's Josh." I knew exactly who it was. As soon as I said hello, like I heard his voice, I knew exactly who that was, because we had developed a relationship. We talked every day, and I could recognize his voice. And I can recognize God's voice now. But in those early stages, when I was still trying to figure that out, like, is this God? Is that me? One, you can always test it against scripture. If it doesn't line up with scripture, it's not God, period. Second way is if it's evoking feelings of shame and condemnation, and you're a believer, that's not God, because the Bible says there is no condemnation for those of us that are in Christ Jesus. So that's me. I've accepted him. He's my savior. That the condemnation and the shame, like, that was nailed to the cross. Like, Jesus took that for me. Now conviction, if I'm knowingly doing something wrong, conviction's more like a tap on the shoulder, like, Katie, no, what are you doing? But he'll correct me in a way where I don't feel shame. I feel loved, and I know the Bible says he disciplines those he loves. So if I'm doing something that is not in my best interest or is against his word, he absolutely will correct me, but it will not be in a way of, it will not be in a shame-filled way. And I will still feel so loved, because that's my dad, and he loves me with the most perfect love. And another way you can test it is if this, voice you're hearing evokes the feelings of the fruit of the Spirit, which are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. You can pretty much guarantee that's God. So he's never going to go against his word. He's never going to make you feel shame or condemnation, and you're going to feel the fruit of the Spirit, even in a situation that's wildly difficult. When I, lean into him, when I seek him, I'm going to feel his presence, and it's going to line up. Like, those are 3 little easy kind of screenshots, snapshots, whatever, of how can I tell if this is me or if this is God. And the more you get to know him, the easier it is for you to recognize his voice. And I would encourage you to take this time. For me, this season has been, it did come out of nowhere. I wasn't really anticipating it. There's a lot of times if something catastrophic is going to happen, I get it. God will give me a heads up. Like, the Holy Spirit will give me a warning in my spirit. I did not have that for this, but what it has made me think about is just reevaluating. Okay, I need to always make sure, in the event something like this happens or something worse happens, am I prepared? Am I ready? And what can I be doing now to ensure that, God forbid, something like this happens in the future or something worse? Do I have all my ducks in a row? It's actually made me think about preparation and planning in a way that I, to the next level. And I had not done that. So that's something that I'm definitely grateful for. And I'm asking God for wisdom on, and, how can I do that, Lord? It's a little bit, not a little, like it's for me, it's full reliance on God, because I don't have a spouse that's, kind of in the mix with me. The kids don't have their dad, helping giving them a sense of security. Like, that's me, and that's Jesus. Like, that's the deal. My family's on the East Coast, so I have to get my instructions from the Lord, or this household does not, it's not going to operate well. And God trusts me with that responsibility. Otherwise I wouldn't be in it, but I am trusting God to help me navigate those responsibilities, and just helping me be aware for the future. And how can I, what can I put in place financially, just across the board? Like, how can I personally be more prepared? So that's currently what I'm navigating, among other things like homeschooling. But I think probably my time is up on that. But if y'all have more questions about hearing from God, or any of that, please send me a DM. But take a deep breath, say a prayer, remind yourself in your mind and out loud what you're grateful for. Pray and ask God for his strategy, his game plan, and then trust that he is going to work this for your good and for his glory. And you know what? This too shall pass. So that we can take to the bank and find assurance and rest and peace in that.
I want to let you know that I've not received a notification.
Your time is over.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. So we have not received a notification saying that it'll be extended. So I think we should just maybe kind of toss it to a break, and we can start a new video and come back on the other side, like a commercial.
That sounds great. Well, we will see you right after these messages. Welcome back. That was our very first commercial break, commercial free break, actually. So, but anyway, we took 5, regrouped, and we're back. So we're going to switch gears. I wanted to share my homeschooling, my very first homeschooling experience with y'all, because I know so many of y'all are just going through it right now and trying to navigate those waters. And for those of you that also work from home, I've homeschooled for off and on for years. Okay, but this is the first time that I've actually worked and homeschooled at the same time and worked from home. Like, everything's happening at the house. It's tough. So my thoughts and prayers are with you. Know that I am also experiencing navigating those, uncharted waters, and it's definitely an adventure, and we are making memories. That's what I can say about that. But the very first homeschooling experience I had, and I can share this because my daughter is she's grown. She's 19. She made it. So, even though I had to homeschool her, like, she still survived. So I can share all of my pitfalls, because I never in a million years, I would never have been the mom that would have homeschooled. Growing up, I grew up in a small private school. I probably knew 2 families my whole childhood ever that homeschooled. And I thought they were weird and so mean. I was not into it. Also, I was the girl in school that if the homework didn't get done in school, there would not be any work done by me at home. I was not doing homework. I wasn't going to do it. I have no idea how I passed, but I was not doing homework. So if someone had told me, you're going to have 4 kids and you're going to homeschool, I would have said no. But I can assure you, really nothing about my life is what I would have pictured it, except that I'm a mom. I did think I thought I would want to have kids. That's the only thing that's remotely close to what I had envisioned. But Josh we had gone through the whole addiction, crack, first year of marriage, which we will revisit all of that at a later date. It's just not necessary for, our current situation, to go back there, but we'll circle back on it at another season. So he gets back in baseball, and we did two seasons. 2 weeks, 2 weeks in the minor leagues. So I'm, traveling up and down the East Coast, living in different hotels, and experiencing baseball for the first time. And this is around July. His minor league career with me only lasted 2 weeks because he had to have surgery. And then we find out that he's going to be going to Florida for instructional league. Of course, I didn't know what that was, but I knew that it was in September, and I knew it was in Florida, and I knew Julia was supposed to be starting kindergarten that year. And I think it was going to last like 2 months or something. So I'm like going through my options for school for her, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Katie, you're gonna have to homeschool. You're gonna be homeschooling. Now, I was thrilled. So thrilled that we were in the situation that we were in, that it took, I took the homeschooling challenge a little bit easier than I would have had I not experienced the crack challenge just 1 year prior. But I felt very ill-equipped, and I was like, okay, well, let me just start to figure this out. So I researched all these curriculums. We tried hooked on phonics because I had to teach my child to read. Like, that responsibility was on me. And that was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure. I'm like, I am going to mess this child up. Oh my gosh. Like, Lord, please help me. Well, as God does, if he calls you to do something, he is going to make a way for you to get it done. The community that he put us in Florida when we moved down there for instructional league consisted of it was probably 9 or 10 families. 7 of those mothers homeschooled their kids. 7. Like, prior to this, I had met maybe 2 people ever that homeschooled. And now I'm all of a sudden hanging out with all these moms that homeschooled. They collectively probably had homeschooled 40 kids. I mean, they had hella experience. And I was like, oh my gosh, teach me your ways. Please right now, because I have no freaking clue what I'm doing. And this is, it's a lot of pressure. So they gave me all of their tips. They gave me all of this, these nuggets of wisdom that they had learned by trial and error. I didn't have to go down all those roads, thank God. I remember the book I used to teach Julia to read. It was called Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. And you know what? It actually worked. She did learn how to read that fall and that winter. Long story short, Josh ends up getting traded in the Rule 5 draft, or I guess picked up and then traded within, a matter of minutes. And of course, I had no clue what that was, but I found out that meant we were going to be in spring training with Cincinnati. And, pretty much he was going to be playing on the big league team that whole year. So we go to spring training. I've made it through the holidays homeschooling. We've packed up, we've moved back to Florida. And now I'm learning about spring training and, all of the things that happen, during that. I didn't know any of that stuff. So that was an adventure for sure. I still made it homeschooling through all of that. We went to every single game. I did not miss one. And, so far so good with the homeschooling. We get to Cincinnati and it's his first, week in the big leagues. We don't have a place to live yet. And, all the opening day stuff was just amazing. I have to find us a place to live, and he's going on a road trip. So me and my kids, we'd all actually gotten really sick that week, just after opening day. And I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to get now we're on baseball schedule. I get us moved into this house, unpacking, thinking, oh, I forgot we've got to do school, and we went to every single game, every home game. And we went on a lot of road trips, but the home games, you don't get home until, 11 o'clock. We only had one car. So, I would take Josh to the stadium and then we would wait for him. We go to the game and wait for him after he would work out after the game was over. So I'd get home and make dinner for everybody. And, we'd get in bed around 2 o'clock in the morning. I was starting to feel the burnout, not of baseball. I was that was just this whole new world that I was learning about, and I just felt so blessed. And oh my gosh, I was so thankful. I'll never get over it. I'm just, every day I'm thankful for those memories. But as the days went on, there's a lot of games, and I was not really trying to homeschool anymore. I was like, oh, this year's not over yet. We still have to do this. I mean, in my head, I didn't say this out loud to my child, but Julia, she would come to me at least twice a week. She'd be like, I really don't feel like doing school today. And I'd be like, oh, yes, praise God. No, me either. Let's go on a field trip. I mean, I was so done. We went on so many field trips, even if it was just to the park or to the pool or on a walk. But I was like, it's April. I think time's up. Can we please be done? And anyway, we finished out the year. We kind of half-assed it, but she made it. I felt very accomplished that I had gotten my child through kindergarten. It was definitely something. And I can tell you, as the years went on, we did hire some teachers, not multiple at a time. Many of them were not good. They were not good at all, but at least I didn't have to, the whole weight and burden wasn't on just me. And, I kept having kids. I just kept having these babies. So, anyway, right now I've homeschooled off and on for what, 15 years, a long time. Yeah, that's about right. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Too long, too much for me to count. I've already done math today, not trying to do anymore. But I can tell you, even with the experience that I have, I am still feeling it. Like it is, it's hard. It takes a conscious, concerted effort. And parenting in and of itself is not for the faint of heart. Neither is homeschooling. So parents, your kids are going to be fine. Do what you can do. Don't, the best thing you can do, honestly, and like, don't tell the school system that I'm saying this, because we are doing our work. We are getting it done. Like everything's getting turned in. But I am teaching my kids like life skills, cooking. I'm enjoying my time with them. We're making memories of, and using this time for things that we wouldn't be able to do if they were in school. And, the math is still going to be there. And just by the way, I do not like how the school teaches math now. We borrow the one. I borrow the one. Okay, Cash, you may not know this, although you're younger than me, so maybe they did this in school. Now they regroup and they bring in all these blocks and cubes. Well, 11 minus 9 it's 2. There's not a whole, why? There's 27,000 different ways to do those super simple problems. I don't like that. So I got rid of all my 5th graders formulas. I was like, no, let me tell you how to find the volume of this rectangular prism. I'm gonna show you how to do this right now. I mean, all the why? No, why would you change it? Don't change it. It works. It works. It's simple. And this is how we're going to do it. So just do.
Katie dropping some knowledge.
I'm like, bump this. I was like, I don't, I'm like, I'm going to have to see your textbook because I don't know what the heck they're talking about. And I love math. Anyway, my children Michaela's getting it for sure. But damn, that is just like a whole bunch of extra nonsense that nobody, no. I guess you've probably figured out, I like to do things how I like to do them. Cash, you've picked up on that. So, this house.
It's a good thing. I think we're very straightforward people. We change while we are good at making adjustments. I think we are flexible and can make changes. It's just certain things.
Changes that make sense. I'm not making dumbass changes. Like there's no.
Yeah, we're logical people.
Yes. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Yes. Do you have a water?
I have.
You're a monster, man.
I do. I have my monster. That's one thing that this coronavirus has not taken away from me.
Yeah. Every time I see you, you have one of those. I've been wondering for a while now, why do you need the extra energy? Is it just for when you have to see or deal with me?
No, it's not just for you. Trust me. I don't really use it for the energy. I just love the taste. I drink the white ones, and I'm not going to say how many I drink a day, but it's multiple.
Well,
I also drink a lot of water, so.
Boy, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but
poison running through my veins.
Drink with caution. Make wise choices. My dad was a big Monster drinker. I've never even tasted one of those.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Yeah, well now I'm a little bit scared too, because what if I like it?
Well, I mean, I probably am a little excessive about it. I'll admit that.
Well, I burn things off at a very high rate, so it actually might help me. You know how much I have to get done in a day? It's a freaking shitload of stuff. So I could probably use a little Monster in my life. I'm
also a really fast drinker, so I don't help myself.
Do you mix that with alcohol if you drink? Do you drink? Are you an alcohol drinker?
I mean, I do drink occasionally. I remember like in college, there was like Four Loko, and that was like a combination of energy drinks and alcohol. And those eventually got banned. I don't know if they still have that around, but I don't really, I mean, I'll do vodka Red Bull every now and then, but I don't mix my Monsters with alcohol. I've never tried that.
Monsters are their own, they're sacred.
Sacred. They don't need to be tainted with anything.
Contaminate them with alcohol. I mean, if I was going to drink, I think that'd be a good mix, but I don't have time to drink. So,
I don't know, combining depressants and,
Who's depressed? Alcohol makes
well,
you depressed.
alcohol. It doesn't alcohol's a depressant,
Oh, I don't know. It makes
and
me
then
fearful.
that's a stimulant, so it's
I think that sounds like a great combo.
it just evens
Because
out.
I'm, whenever I did drink, I'm always very happy. Like, I have a blast, even if I'm just entertaining myself. But anyway, we're done talking about me. I actually have been dying to know how the social distancing, because I've been thinking a lot about you personally and your dating game, and how has that been affected? Like, how does one date with, and I never thought two words that I had never heard together with each other could get on my nerves so fast. But social paired with distancing, I'm so tired of hearing that phrase.
They're like
But
oxymoron. It's an oxymoron, right?
exactly, it is absolutely an oxymoron. But I mean, surely that's affecting you and your
Oh, without a
dating.
doubt. I mean,
Talk to me.
the apps are even suggesting, like, they notified everyone. It's like, please take your dates virtual because they don't want people meeting and spreading this whole coronavirus thing. So everyone's on top of it across the board, which is certainly a good thing. And
That could be interesting. I mean,
it is really interesting. And I'm not really a virtual person. Like,
I'm not like a FaceTimer unless I like want to see my nephew or one of my kids.
yeah, I mean, with people that I already know, like yourself and my other friends, my brother. I talked to my brother last night. Like, I have no problem, and my brother lives in Colombia, by the way, so we kind of have to. That's our only way that we can really communicate. Um, so I know people, and I'm more comfortable talking. But with first dates, like, that just, like, I understand there's some pros behind it, like you avoid catfishing,
Definitely, that would be a pro.
and but you're also, it's very, you have to be very invested and very focused. Like, even if I'm like do a phone call, I can walk around my apartment, I can cook, I can do other things, but if
Absolutely.
I'm on a video call, I have to be engaged with you. And not that that's a horrible thing.
My video calls, when like 90% of the time, unless it's like with my child or a nephew, they are looking at like my walls or the ceiling, because for me to sit here and like do this for 20 minutes, no, I'm just not into it. I mean, I can do this because this is serving a purpose, but that's just like, I'm just not into it. So if for sure, if I was trying to get to know someone, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
I mean,
So like,
again, some people have to be flexible and adapt. And if you really are, that's what you enjoy and you don't mind that, and that's what you want to do. If you are really, you want to like date people, and I mean, I'm just kind of casually dating, so I'm just, I'm
so
not
you,
really that invested.
so I mean, like if you're gonna date virtually, it's probably gonna be people that you've gone out with before that you might want to see again, or
Yeah,
no?
you might circle back around with certain people. I have a buddy; he's doing that. It was actually funny. I ran into him at Best Buy, in which they were doing like curbside pickup stuff. And he parked right next to me. I was like, "Oh man, like, small world." And I asked him how it was affecting his dating game. He's like, I have a date, and this was before, I think, the mandatory shelter in thing here in Dallas. But he had people coming over like for quarantine dating. Quarantine dating, like, that was a thing. Virtual happy hours, quarantine dating is like, and he was like, it's a lot cheaper, because I can cook. I have all my stuff at home, and we can play games or watch Netflix or whatever. It's like, that is
That,
a cheap date.
that would be like my kind of date anyway. You know what I mean? Like I'm like to get ready and like go out somewhere is like, oh, I would much rather come come hang out with somebody in my sweatpants. Um,
I have my sweatpants here. I've actually been, I mean, these video conference calls, it's kind of, it reminds me of when I was in TV and I did the weather, and I always wore my flip flops. Like, because people
so
never
then you
see
don't
what,
see your feet.
yeah, no one could ever see. I was either wearing socks or flip flops or,
When I did Real Housewives, I was always, even last year, even on Marrying Millions, I think I have a picture of this on my Instagram. I always had on like business on the top, nice shirt, whatever, hair done, makeup on. I was always in sweatpants and my socks for every single interview. All those, like, the confessionals or whatever, you're on, your camera interviews. I wore my sweatpants in every single one. And that was one of my first questions when I started filming Real Housewives. I was like, do you guys care if I wear my sweatpants? And they were like, no, girl, do your thing. I mean, I answered the door with my producers, like when they were coming to my house for the first time. I remember I had a towel on my head. I had gotten out of the shower and I was like, oh, y'all come on in. But yeah, at home, like, it's home. It's super casual. And that's the kind of dating I could get down with.
As your producer, I feel like we're chasing rabbits, and
we are. I'm sure we are.
We need to wrap things up.
You can cut, like, X amount of minutes out of this.
I'll do my best.
Okay. All right. Well, do you have any last words?
I do not have any last words. I mean, I certainly hope that, everyone stays healthy out there, remain safe, wash your hands as many times as you can, and, keep 6 feet distance, away from other people.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you for your patience with, helping me get all set up over here. And hopefully we are, off to the races for as long as we're going to be here. And until next time, I will see you then. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on When Life Throws You a Curve and how to make the adjustment. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you next time. Come find me on social media, on Instagram and Twitter at Katie Hamilton 32, on Facebook at Katie Hamilton, and at When Life Throws You a Curve 32, and on YouTube at Katie Hamilton.